Hello and welcome to another car fix video from Car Fix, where I do what I love and I love what I do. In today's video I'm going to be working on this 2011 GMC Sierra with a 5.3 V8 engine. Now the issue I'm having with this vehicle is the oil pressure right here drops to 0 and a message on the dash says stop engine oil pressure low. Now we're ready to replace the oil pressure switch on this truck. But when I took the screen out, it had a lot of sludge on it. So the engine might be sludged up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to run flush through it and remove the oil pan and clean the pickup tube. Now, as you can see, the oil pressure is dropping. It's supposed to be at least at 24 psi at 1,000 RPM, but that's way below 20. That's almost like 16 or 15. So the oil pressure is dropping at idle. So, and the engine is running maybe around 600 to 700 RPM. So that's pretty low right there, and it's continuing to drop. So it's gonna go all the way down to 0. Now for the motor flush, I'm using this Motor Medic right there, motor flush. And before I add it to the engine, I need to check the oil level. Now if the oil level is full, I'm going to have to drain at least 1 quart out of the engine so I can add my my motor flush right there. Right now, the engine has the oil is full, so I'm going to have to drain 1 quart out of the engine. So drain plug out. I'm just gonna have to drain 1 quart out of the engine so I can add my engine flush. Alright, now after I drained 1 quart out of the engine, 1 quart of oil, the oil level is low, and I'm gonna add my engine flush. Now I'm going to start up the engine and idle only, and less than 5 minutes. Alright, now after I drained the oil and added the motor flush to the engine, I'm going to let it run for about 5 minutes at idle only, no higher than 600 to 700 RPM. And after the 5 minutes, I'm just going to drain the oil and remove the oil pan. Alright, now after the 5 minutes are up, I'm just going to drain the oil. Now the oil doesn't look that great. I mean, it's really dark. Alright, now to remove the oil pan, I gotta remove the skid plate. You got 4 bolts right there, and I'm gonna have to disconnect the front propeller shaft and also the front axles right here. Alright, now before removing the axles, the axles have to be marked just like that on both sides. And also the front propeller shaft has to be marked right there. So, and the differential right here, you need to mark the position of it so it goes back in the same position. Right now I got the front axles disconnected right here. Okay, now I have to remove this cross member with 4 bolts. And remove the propeller shaft right here. Alright guys, now I got the front prop shaft disconnected, and sometimes you have to tape up the those caps right there. But this one has a metal piece on the back of it, so they're both attached to each other. So you don't have to, but it's always a good idea to put electric tape around it so the caps will not fall out. Now for the differential itself, it has 4 bolts. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually 2 bolts and 2 nuts. This is the actuator for the front hubs, or the front axles. This has to be disconnected. And also you have a vent tube right here and some electric wires right there. Alright guys, now I got the differential out of the way. Now that's the oil pan right here. This truck is equipped with engine oil cooler lines right here that goes all the way to the radiator. That has to be disconnected. And the transmission lines brackets right here has to be disconnected. And I might have to drop the rack and pinion down a little bit so I can clear it from here. And the front disc plate has to be removed to remove this wiring harness right here in the front. Yeah, a lot of fun. Alright, now for the transmission line bracket right here, it's got a 6mm bolt on the top, and you just remove it out of there. That's it. And for the wiring harness up front, it has guide pins that goes this way, and it has a 6mm bolt on this side right here. So you remove the bolt and you slide it to the left side and you pull it out. Alright, for the wiring harness right here, here's the bolt right there, 6mm. You just remove it right here, and you just slide the whole harness to the left side like that, and it just comes out. That's it. So you can expose these bolts right there for the oil pan. Alright, now for the these engine oil cooler lines, I have to disconnect this manifold right here from the oil pan, and there's a plastic cover right here, got 6mm bolt, and on the other side where the starter is, I don't know if you can see it, but right here it has another plate with a 6mm bolt. So both of them, they have to be replaced, and I mean removed, I'm sorry, and the gasket right here has to be replaced. Yeah. Now the engine cooler lines right here, they have a bracket here with an 8mm bolt right there. That has to be removed too, so I can move the lines out of the way so I can drop the oil pan. Now I'm not going to remove the oil filter because it's screwed on into the oil pan, so I'm just going to leave it there. Alright guys, now I got the engine oil cooler lines disconnected right here from the oil pan, and the bracket is out. So, and it's still dripping, so this will give me enough room so I can remove the oil pan. Alright guys, now I'm ready to remove the oil pan. I have to remove these 2 bolts right here that bolts the oil pan to the transmission bell housing. Those are 15mm head bolts, and those are 6mm, 10mm head bolts right there, all the way. Alright guys, now I got all the oil pan bolts removed except 2, one on each side, one here, and one right there. So all I have to do now is just pry it down, pry on it. You should have a prying spot right there, and you just pry it. There we go. Alright, now the reason for these 2 bolts to hold it, so I don't want it to fall on my head, so it's loose, and it's ready to come out. In order to remove the oil pan, I have to drop the rack and pinion for the steering system. I have to drop it down so the oil pan have enough clearance to be removed. Before I disconnect the intermediate shaft, I have to lock the steering wheel in a straight position like that and tie it up to the seat belt right here, and of course remove the key. Alright, now I already got the intermediate shaft bolt right here loose, right there, and I'm just gonna disconnect the intermediate shaft from the rack and pinion right there. And you always put a mark on it, so it can go back in the same position it was. You see the reason I'm dropping the rack and pinion, because of this line right here. It hits the oil pan when I drop it down, so it's not gonna clear, so this has to drop down more. But this is the rack and pinion. Now the rack and pinion has 4 bolts. You have 2 here, and you have 2 here, which is actually come from the front. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, now for the rack and pinion, this is an 18mm head bolt right there, and this is 24. And you always break them by hand first, not with an impact gun. So I've already got the intermediate shaft disconnected from the rack and pinion right there, so I'm good to go. Alright guys, now I got the rack and pinion lowered down, so I have enough clearance here so I can remove the oil pan. So alright guys, now I got the oil pan out of the engine, and as you can see, it has a lot of sludge in it, a lot of crap in it, so that's not good right there. Alright guys, I already got the pickup tube out of the block right there. That's the old O-ring right there, and I do have the pickup tube in my hand, and it does have some stuff on the screen right there, so that has to be cleaned. Now for the oil pan, as you can see, it's got a lot of stuff in it, so that has to be clean. The oil pan has to be clean, and also if you look down here, see all that stuff right there? That's not good. That's not good. That has to be clean. Alright guys, now after I remove the baffle plate right here and the pickup tube, and this is the pickup tube right here, and as you can see, the oil pan is really dirty, and this is what I got out of it. All this stuff was actually at the bottom of the oil pan. It was right here. So the pickup tube sits like this. Pickup tube sits like this. Sits down in the oil pan like this, and it keeps sucking all this crap in there. That's why the oil pressure was dropping, because all the sludge right here, all this stuff right here was at the bottom of the oil pan. It's kind of grainy. It has a grainy feeling to it, so that's all just like carbon buildup inside the engine. Not doing an oil change for a long time will do that to an engine. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to clean the oil pan, clean the pickup tube, and also replace this gasket. Now this gasket, this is the original gasket, and it looks like it's riveted, because this has never been replaced before, because you have rivets right here, you have one here, and you have one right here. Those 2 rivets, they have to be drilled out so I can put a new gasket on the oil pan. Alright guys, now this is the oil pan after I clean it, and as you can see, it's much cleaner than before. Also, I cleaned the pickup tube right here. I had a few spots there were plugged up, and I cleaned all the sludge out of the oil pan, and everything looks clean now, and it's ready to install back on the truck. Alright guys, now I'm ready to install the oil pan. I've already cleaned the meeting surface for the oil pan on the block right here. As you can see, it's clean. But before I install the oil pan, I need to before I install the oil pan, I need to install the pickup tube, because I don't want to forget that, you know what I mean? And also, after I install the pickup tube, before I install the oil pan, I have to put some RTV on these joints right here. I got one here, one right here, and you have two in the front. You have one here, and you have the other one right there. That's where the block meets the front engine cover. Now for the pickup tube, I have a brand new O-ring right here, and it goes right here. This one goes to the oil pump, and this goes all the way down to inside the oil pan. The torque specs are 18 for these nuts and 106 for this bolt that goes here. That secures the oil pickup tube to the oil pump. Alright guys, now I already installed the pickup tube right here. Bolt to the oil pump, 18 foot-pound 106, and I already have some RTV on those joints right there. Yeah, right there, and the last one is right there. And I'm just ready to install the oil pan. Alright guys, now I got the oil pan in place. I got all the bolts torqued down. Those 8mm bolts they take 18 foot-pound, and these small ones right here, you have two of them, one here and one on the other side, which is right there. Those are 106 inch-pound, and the rear bolts, you know, from the bell housing to the oil pan, about 37 foot-pound. You have two of them, one here and one there. So basically the oil pan in place now. Now next I'm gonna have to install the oil cooler lines right there, put a new gasket, new oil filter, and put everything back together and start it up. Alright, now I got the oil pan, the oil filter, and the oil cooler lines right here attached. The transmission lines bracket attached, everything is attached. Now I'm gonna torque the rack and pinion. The rack and pinion big bolts right here, and the small bolts 148. I think this is 75 right there, and also the intermediate shaft pinch bolt right there. Takes 35 foot-pound, and also I'd like to put some Loctite on the bolt before I install it. So for the big bolt rack and pinion, 148. 148. Now here's what I mean about Loctite on the bolt. This bolt takes 35 foot-pound, but I would like to put some liquid plastic on it. It's Loctite. You know, it will prevent it from coming loose with vibration. Alright, now I got everything bolted on, everything is okay. The last thing I need to do is install the front differential, both axles to the differential, and the prop shaft right there. Alright, now I got the front differential in place. It's torqued to 74 foot-pound, all 4 bolts. Now I need to connect my CV axles. Now this is the mark I made, so I should put it back on the same mark. Same thing with the other side, and also the prop shaft mark has to line up. The yoke bolts right here are 18 foot-pound, and those bolts I think 48 foot-pound each. And also don't forget to connect your vent and your axle hub actuator right here. Alright, now I got everything in place. I got the skid plates in place, the differential, rack and pinion. Everything is in place, cross member right here. Those bolts for the axle right here, they're 58 foot-pound, not 48. So, yeah, everything looks good. Now, I just need to add oil to it and start it up. Alright, the oil is man, 6 quarts of 530. Alright, now I'm gonna start it up and see. There we go, the oil pressure went up. Now I'm just gonna wait about 10-15 minutes, or drive it 10-15 minutes and see if the oil pressure drops again. Right now, before I drive it, I need to recheck the oil level after I start it up, make sure it's full. If not, I'm gonna have to top off the oil. You can see here, and it is kind of low, so I'm gonna add maybe half a quart to it, top it off, and then drive it. All right, now after I start it up, I gotta make sure I have no leaks anywhere, so that cooler lines are okay, the filter is okay, drain plug is torqued, and no oil leaks anywhere, so that's good right there. So